There's Old Testament giving, wasn't there? Well, what are you supposed to do in the Old Testament? What were they required to do? Well, Israel, let's talk about under the law. And even before the law, what did Abraham do? Did Abraham ever pay a tithe?
Yeah, he did, to Melchizedek.
Oh, to Melchizedek. Who's Melchizedek? We don't know.
He was running around up there somewhere.
Melchizedek was the king of what is called Jerusalem. He lived in Jerusalem, but we don't know anything about him. We don't know when he was born, we don't know when he died, or anything. Or if he did. He could have been Christ.
Yeah, that's what
Pre-incarnate Christ.
Christ.
Now, some people say that. Some theologians say that he could have been the pre-incarnate Christ. And he appeared, and Abraham paid tithes to him. We're going to find out some really neat things about that. Really neat things. We finished at number 7. What is the basis for New Testament giving? 2 Corinthians 9 and 6. Let someone read that for me. 2 Corinthians 9 and 6. I may ask you to read a whole lot today because my voice is almost gone. 2 Corinthians 9 and verse 6. Who has that? By the way, we've got a lot of new church members in here today. Put your hands up, all you new church members and newly dipped people. Amen. We had, I think, there was 11 or 12 from this class, or from the families in this class on Sunday night, and I got to baptize 6 of them, I think. How many I baptized? And I baptized this young lady right there. And anyway, we dipped them. Didn't we, Dakota? I dipped her too. My little girl gets to be in the class with us today. Who has that 2 Corinthians 9 and verse 6? Okay, yes.
But this I say, he who sows sparingly will also reap sparingly, and he who sows bountifully will also reap bountifully.
Now just think about that just a little while. I remember Brother Madden one time. Brother Madden was a harsh preacher. He could. And on my website, I wrote a little thing. I got to go back and redo that because I was typing this, and I was answering the phone and everything else, and I was typing this little thing, and I just finished it. And I hadn't gone back to do any correction at all on it at all. I just rattling on as I did this, and that thing took it. I came back and it was on the website without any corrections. And I didn't know how to get it back, and I couldn't get it back, so I tried to correct that thing. But Brother Madden, I put on there, Brother Madden could preach. When he preached, he made people feel lower. He made a man feel so low. He made a man, he humbled mankind. That's what he did. And he raised God to the heights of glory. So there's a great distance between man and God. But at the end of all of his messages, he put them back together by the grace of Christ. That's what he did. He'd show how high and holy God is and how low down man is. And then he put them back together by the merits of Jesus Christ. Well, sowing and reaping. Brother Madden used to say, some of God's people in eternity, their inheritance, they're going to get to stand on 1 square inch forever. Because they didn't do anything. You can't buy salvation at all. Did you know that? You can't buy salvation. Salvation isn't for sale. But when you're saved, you do something. When you're saved, you start doing something for the Lord. I knew my bills would be here pretty soon. And Joanne. I can't leave you out, Joanne. You keep him straight. It's a scary thing to think about going to eternity and being saved. And I want to tell you something. When you hit eternity and when you hit the judgment seat of Christ, it says all of our works will be revealed. Think about that. Right now, you can get by with doing whatever you're going to do, and that's all right. Do whatever you're going to do, and that's all right. But in eternity,
Yeah, drunk your badge. I'm sorry.
I'll get it for you, Bruce.
your works will be revealed. Think about that. That could be very embarrassing, because your works will be revealed. Yes,
Yes.
Rosalie.
You know, where I work, there's this man that goes over constantly and asking for money to buy food. And he says, like, I haven't eaten for 10 days, but you can tell it's not true because he looks very healthy and all that. But once I got his thing, I don't give him anything anymore because I know it's not true that he hasn't eaten. He looks very healthy. But then I feel guilty because I don't give him anything, you know.
That's what they want you to feel like. There are people in the world that live off society. And when one of them come up to me, I said, no thank you. I like this to them, I say, no thank you. And they said, what do you mean, no thank you? I said, I've got a brother that's a panhandler. And I know all about you. All right, bye. It's like that, you know. They're out here begging, I'm a veteran. I'm this, I'm that. You know, you see all of this kind of stuff. It is they're panhandlers. They're bums. That's what they are.
Yeah, the last time I gave a guy, I gave him $5, and he had a cane. He was walking, and we watched. Me and Tony were watching it. He had hammers. He run right out to the liquor store.
Yep. Many times they'll do that. They're wanting something to drink. Not only did I have a stepbrother that's a panhandler, I had a whole lot of uncles that were panhandlers. Why no? Well, it doesn't do you any good to help them. You know, you've got to help people with discernment. Hope you feel better now. You go home and just say no to him. Everything's all right. Because, you know, the Lord tells us, pray that he'll be saved.
Yeah.
You know, if he gets saved, he'll get him a job or do something to take care of himself. Among the American Indian people, many American Indians today are just basically wards of the state. But a long time ago, in the culture of the people, if a man did not provide himself, he was looked upon as a woman. Less than a man. He was like a child, like a bum. And they didn't want to be any bum. They didn't want any bums. They all took care of themselves. Brother Art.
I know a way you can probably deal with that. How I do it when they come up to me is, before I give them any money, I say, I got the book there, I'm going to walk you through it. Talk about knowing Jesus Christ. A lot of them say, well, I don't want it. And they walk away. Some will let me walk them through the book, and then I'll give them some money after that.
Yeah. No, that's a way to do it. But they get immune to that also. A lot of them, you know, they know. There are church bums. Did you know that? Not so much today as there used to be church bums. During service, they come and knock on the door. They come up there and want money. This is a church where we need money. We've got a real good deal here in this church about that. If somebody needs money sometime, they investigate. And they do help them if they need help. How many of you know people that really need something?
Yeah.
Well, that's the ones to help. The ones that really need something. There are people out there living off society, and there are people that really need something. There are people that are in hardship. Well, sowing and reaping. What you sow, you will reap. I can assure you that. The book of Galatians tells you that. I mean, the Bible tells you that from Genesis through Revelation. Sowing and reaping. God's Word teaches us that what we give is what we receive. There are a lot of ways to receive things when you give. Not just money. There are a lot of ways, and we're going to look at those in a little bit. What is the basis? Now, someone turned for me to Malachi 3:8-10. Malachi, where is the book of Malachi, by the way? The next lesson that we're going to study here, after we finish with Doctrines of the Bible, is biblical hermeneutics. We're going to study the Bible, the science of biblical interpretation, because I know that you're always going to need that. All the lessons I teach are related. All right. Malachi. All right. The book of Malachi is the last book in the Old Testament, by the way. Have you got that, brother?
Yeah, what do you want?
All right. 3:8-10.
3:18.
Yes.
Will a man rob God? Yet you are robbing me. If you say, how have we robbed you? And tithes and offerings, you are cursed. You are cursed with a curse, for you are robbing me and the whole nation of you. Bring the whole tithe into the storehouse, so that there may be food in my house, and test me now. And this says the Lord of hosts, if I will not open for you the windows of heaven and pour out for you blessings until it overflows.
God told Israel in the Old Testament to give tithe, and another thing they had to do, He wanted to teach them to trust God, to trust Him. That's very important. It's hard to teach people to trust God. Did you know that? You get saved and you're saved. Will you trust Jesus as your Savior? Can you trust Him to take care of your finances? Can you trust Him to take care of your home life? It's those things are areas that we have to learn to trust and to hope in God. If you do what He wants you to do, He will bless you. I don't care what the world does to you, He will bless you. All right, Deuteronomy 14 and 28 and 29. Deuteronomy 14. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy means the second law. That's what it means. Deuteros nomos. It's Greek. It is a Greek word. It's not the Hebrew. It means the second law, the second giving of the law, the explanation of the law. Brother Joe, have you got that? Deuteronomy 14, 28, and 22, 28, and 29.
At the end of every third year, you shall bring out all the tithe of your produce in this year, and you shall deposit it in your town. And the Levites, because he had no portion of inheritance among you, and aliens, the orphans and the widows who are in the town, shall come and eat and be satisfied, in order that the Lord your God may bless you in all the work of your hands which you do.
All right. God had a welfare system in His time under the nation of Israel. So widows and orphans and everybody were going to be fed, because the other people, it's what you call redistribution of funds. Redistribution of funds. They gave so much as national Israel, and those that were poor, the nation of Israel was supposed to provide for them. There weren't supposed to be any poor in Israel. Did you know that? If a man, something happened to him in his life where he lost his land, where he had to sell himself into slavery, his children into slavery to make a debt, in 7 years that debt was forgiven. They couldn't keep you in bondage all the time. Not only that, but you couldn't charge interest to your brother at all. You couldn't charge him any interest on if he borrowed from you. Not only that, but if a person fell on hard times, his family were supposed to bail him out. If you were related, if you were a kinsman to somebody, you were supposed to get him out of trouble. It was your job. That's the whole book of Ruth. The book of Ruth is about the kinsman redeemer. And in the New Testament, our kinsman redeemer is Jesus Christ. God became flesh so that He could redeem us out and away from sin. Adam sold us into sin, and God redeemed us out Himself. That's the beautiful thing. The Redeemer God. I've been looking at that in the Old Testament. He is our Redeemer, and He is our sacrifice. He is redemption and the Redeemer. He is the sacrifice and the deliverer. Think about that. He is the sacrifice and the deliverer. Now, how many of you go out and eat in restaurants? I used to do that before I had this chemotherapy thing. Now, I don't, because I can't. Can't have the salt in food. It works me over. But I used to go out, and if you go out in a restaurant and eat, especially in a fine restaurant, how much are you supposed to give for a tip? 15%? Yeah. You know that God asks less than that? Just think about that for just a little bit. People used to say, preachers used to say, don't tip God. I wish God's people would tip God. Now, used to people to go out to a restaurant and they'd have a meal and they'd leave a quarter. And that was about it. Now the economy has changed. These cafes and restaurants don't pay their help. You know who pays their help? You do. They get minimum wage. And if they make enough money to live on, it's because of the tips that they get. You are now the supporter of the waitress or the waiter or the cook or whatever. You're looked upon to do that. That's what they do. Financially, that's how they do it. Now, God's people, many times to God, are less than tipping. You tip waitresses better than you give to God. Just think about that for a while. God doesn't even ask as much as a restaurant asks. Think about it. A restaurant provides you food one time when you sit down and give you a little service. God provides your shelter, your home, your car, your health, everything.
All the time.
All the time.
Amen.
He's in constant oversight of it. All right? Just think about that for a while. Numbers 18, 24 through 26. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers now. Numbers, the book of Numbers. There's a lot of numbers, a lot of names in the book of Numbers. So we're going to find something else. Numbers 18, 24 through 26. Who's got that? You write that down in your little book. If you don't have one, holler, because we've got some books up here. I want each one of you to have another bill. Yeah.
For the tithes of the children of Israel, which they offer up as a heaven offering to the Lord, I have given to the Levites as an inheritance. Therefore I have said to them, among the children of Israel, they shall have no inheritance. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak thus to the Levites, and say to them, When you take from the children of Israel the tithes which I have given you, to them as your inheritance, then you shall offer up a heave offering of it to the Lord, a tenth of the tithe.
All right. Yes, brother.
You know that the Church of Christ people don't believe in tenth. They say that you can't find it in the Bible.
We're going to find it today, brother. We're going to find that tithing today. Church of Christ don't support the pastors either, do they?
No. Well, actually, we got Church of Christ don't support.
No, they don't pay the pastors. They take turns preaching. All right? Now let's look at this. Hello, Brother Levine. It's good to have you here, brother. We're studying about giving. Now let's look back. Now what does it keep emphasizing? Now we've gone through 3 or 4 scriptures in the Old Testament. What's it saying about the Levites? Who were the Levites? We got Levi right here. We know who Levi is. How about the Levites? Who were they?
They were the ministers of God.
Priesthood.
They were the priesthood, the ministers of God. And the Levites didn't have any land at all. You know why? That's a type of you today, in some ways. God said, I own the land. I'm going to loan every generation. I'm going to loan you the land. Remember in the Old Testament when Ahab accosted Naboth and told him that he wanted to buy his vineyard from him, and Naboth says, I can't sell you my vineyard. It's not mine to sell, it's God's. Well, Ahab got mad and went home and whined, and his wife Jezebel ripped him off and had the man killed on false premises. Well, she got ate up by dogs, and old Ahab got killed. So and reaped. It took a long time for all this to happen, but God took care of it. What they did to Naboth, worse than that happened to them, because God was not only is He the Redeemer, but He is the protector of God's people. The Redeemer and the protector of God's people. We got some seats there. Christy, you need a book or anything? All right. So God is the Redeemer, and He is our protector. And He also is the one that metes out retribution. He'll get your enemies. You don't have to. God's going to do it. Sowing and reaping. Let's go a little bit further now. How about Luke 18 and verse 12. Luke 18 and verse 12. Luke 18 and verse 12. That's Matthew, Mark, Luke. That's the third gospel. In the New Testament, it's the third book in the New Testament. Matthew, Mark, Luke. And then someone look up Matthew, the 23rd chapter, and verse 23 for me also. Matthew 18 and verse 12. I didn't put these things down, Bill, because you outrun me, see. I added these to. You can add these to your books. These are things that I've studied since then. All right. Matthew or Luke 18 and verse 12. Who's got Luke 18 and 12? You got that, Brother Joe? Go ahead.
I fast twice a week. I pay tithes of all that I get.
All right. Now, who's this speaking? A separated one. A Pharisee speaking. All right. Now, he fasted twice a week, and he paid tithes of all that he had. Not only that, but he even out his garden that he's growing in the backyard, he even gives tithes of the earth that's growing in his backyard. Now, what did Jesus say about these people? They were rats. They were religious rats. Vipers. And they robbed the widow's homes and they did all this. But what else do you say? What they tell you to do, you do it. But don't do like they do. All right. Now the ministry. Let's go back. The ministry was supposed to be supported. They had no inheritance at all. Your pastors are supposed to be supported by you. God made it that way. He made them dependent upon churches. In the New Testament time, God made His pastors to depend upon churches, and churches should depend upon their pastors to feed them and to meet all of their needs in their community where they are. To help go out and witness to people in hospitals and to spend time. How many of you, I call you on the phone? Pretty often, huh? I call you on the phone and I talk with you and I counsel with you and I love you. I'm your teacher. That's what I'm supposed to do. I do that. And I call and I check on you guys and see how you're doing and I spend a little time with you for your personal needs because that's what I'm supposed to do. Well, pastors do that. We got a great big church here. Our pastors have got a great big load, don't they? There's about 10,000 people that come into this church. That's a lot of people to minister to. And our pastors here depend upon a lot of the ministers in this church like me to take care of you. Because they can't reach everybody's home. They love everybody, but they can't reach everybody home. But there's what we call support groups. And the Sunday school classes are extremely important. So we can reach you with God's Word and with your needs. And if something happens out in your families or something, we tell the pastors, and then they take care of it. This is all part of we're working together in a New Testament church. Now, when you have, like some groups, for instance, it's good to have missionaries in it. It's good to have missionaries. But what are missionaries supposed to do when they go out into an area? What are they supposed to do, Brother? When they go into an area? Huh? They're supposed to they're supposed to go out and preach to people and get people preached and baptized. And then what do you do with them? Build them into a what? A church. You build a church. Paul the Apostle only went to big cities. Did you know that? He didn't go to any little cities. He went to big cities and he established what? Churches. And those churches, what did they do? They would go and meet and reach all the other people. He would go in big cities and he established churches. That's the way God meant it to be. And every one of those churches were taught to support the ministry. And Paul apologized a few times for not becoming a burden to churches. We're going to see that later on. A pastor and teachers that don't teach church members to give, you know what they're doing? They're sinning against God. I told you here, a couple of weeks ago, I took a church one time as a pastor. The church had pastored that church for 20-something years. He preached there. He didn't pastor the church. He preached at that church for 20-something years. That's all. He didn't want to pastor. He had ruined the people in that church. I had other pastors tell me, don't go there. That church is ruined. It's just ruined. You're going to have to either build a new work there, and you're still going to have the old ones fighting you, or else it's just going to be a mess, because that church has never been a church. It's one guy got up there and preached for his own ego trip. And he just kept these people alive. They gave him a little token fee every month. That was all it was. You want to build a big church, because then you're responsible for the gospel. The more people you have that you're preaching to, guess what? You're responsible to more people. And you know what? God says that His preachers are supposed to live off the gospel. When you got a church can tell his church, a pastor that can tell his church members to go jump in the creek financially, you got a problem. You've got a problem, because that pastor, that missionary or whatever he is supposed to be subsisting. We got one up here for you, brother. If you want to come here in front or over in that place, either place. Out here, right on. That's some goodies too. All right. That's God's economy for things. God, and if you go someplace besides God's direction, what do? You get in trouble. Why does that work? Because God wants His people to depend upon their pastor, and He wants their pastor to depend upon His. It's a two-way thing. If you don't ever hire a millionaire pastor, because he can tell you to jump in the creek. You don't need you. All right? What you need is a church that needs a pastor, and a pastor that needs a church. They work together, and they're supposed to work together. The Bible says in the Old Testament, the Levites didn't have any inheritance. Pastors in this world are supposed to be examples to us. Examples to us. They're supposed to show us how to live in this world without living for the world.
Christ.
We're supposed to live like Christ. And just think back for a little bit while. I mean, that'll humble you. Christ, the God of eternity, the God of the universe, when He was on this earth, what did He have?
Nothing.
He said, I don't even have a rock to lay my hand on.
No roof.
Nothing. You know why? Because He did it for you. That's a good example for us to follow in. Let's go on a little bit further. Matthew 23 and verse 23. Did we get that one yet? Matthew 23 and verse 23. Brother Bill.
Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you pay tithe of mint and anise and cumin, and have neglected the weightier matters of the law, justice and mercy, and faith. These you ought to have done without leaving the others undone.
All right. Now it says you should have tithe. That's Jesus talking, isn't it? Jesus talking. He's setting us some examples here. We ought to tithe. But we ought to remember all the things of the law. These people were tithing. They were the mint and the cumin. That's what, you know what it's, and anise, you know what it's talking about there? It's talking about tithing out of their backyard gardens. They were very particular. They were going to tithe out everything they had because they were super religious. They're giving their way to heaven. Some people try that sometimes, don't they? You can't buy heaven. But a lot of people in false religious systems, you know that some churches want you to tithe triple? They won't find that in the Bible. That's Herbert Armstrong's Church of God. Well, Mormons too. These people want you to triple tithe. And when people do that, they feel like they're buying their way to heaven. Buying their way to heaven. People, if you put down, if salvation cost you $250,000, and you knew that that was the only way you were going to get to heaven, people would dig it up somehow. Did you know that? They'd dig it up somehow. They'd try to get to heaven. If they starved, they would be trying to get to heaven. But salvation is free. But once you're saved, you have responsibilities to God. You have an inheritance that you're building up. How many of you have tried to put a little bank account aside for your children? For their education, whatever, in their lives. You try, when you're growing up, you do that. Did you know that you can put money in the bank in heaven for you? Did you know that? That what you give right now, that your great-grandchildren will be recipients of? And where in the world are you going to find that in the Bible? We're going to look at it. We're going to find that out. Turn to the book of Hebrews. That's right before the book of James. The book of Hebrews, the 7th chapter. Hebrews chapter 7. Hebrews, the 7th chapter. Have you got that, brother?
Yeah.
Orlando?
You know, Jim, God only wants 10% of your money, but He wants all your faith.
Now, He wants all your faith. Now, last week we talked about, now that's what's required is 10%. That's required. It's God's already. It's not yours. We talked about tithing in a restaurant at 15, not tithing, but tipping at 15%. God asks you 10%. That's what He requires of His people. But you know what? You don't give to God unless you give above 10%. Let's think about that for a while, too. You're not giving anything to God. You give 10%, that's all you're doing is what's required.
You know, I've asked people what their priorities are in life. And, you know, they do this. So the first thing they tell me, well, my job first. And then comes my family, then comes God. I said, well, you got it all wrong. I said, it should be God first. Mm-hmm. I said, you put God first, and then your family, and then your job. He said, what? You know, I said, hey, it's all God's in the first place. And if your life doesn't begin with Him, well then, you know, you don't have nothing at all.
Your life begins with God and it ends with God. Did you know that?
Yeah.
He brings you into this world. He's going to take you out of it. That's right. It begins and ends with Him. Now let's look at the book of Hebrews. This is the most fantastic book. It's talking about Old Testament, talking about the king of Salem. For this, Melchizedek. Now, king of righteousness is what his name means. King of Salem. King of Salem means king of peace. And it, by the way, is Jerusalem. City of peace is the name of Jerusalem. Jerusalem is what it is. For Melchizedek, now it means the king of righteousness, king of Salem, priest of the Most High God, who met Abraham as he was returning from the slaughter of the kings and blessed him. Now, Abraham went out to do what in the slaughter of the kings? Know what Abraham did? Huh? You weren't there? Oh. They didn't see it on the news, huh? What happened, Brother Joe? Remember what happened there when Abraham went out? He went out there to protect Lot, didn't he?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, he went out to protect his nephew, the ungodly buzzard, lawyer. That's what he was. He was a lawyer. Lot. Rascal. And a judge. He went out there and got in trouble. And these kings went and attacked the cities. And we're talking about Sodom and Gomorrah. God went out and sent Abraham down there, and He protected him. He whipped all these kings and slaughtered them. Now we're talking about Sodom and Gomorrah. All this were surrounding cities. God sent His man down there. He whipped all these kings off them, and they came back. And when he came back, Melchizedek met Abraham. Now just think about it. Later on, God destroyed those cities, didn't He? He gave them a chance, didn't He? He gives every man a chance to come to God. But you don't come to God, the judgment comes. All right? Abraham met Melchizedek, and he gave tithes of everything that he had, because Abraham knew who caused the battle to go his way. He's God. And it says, to whom also Abraham appointed the 10th part of all the spoils, was first of all, by the translation of his name, King of Righteousness, and then King of Salem, which is King of Peace. Now what's saying here is that Melchizedek, at the very least, was a type of Christ. So what's it telling? What's it telling? These are Hebrew Christians now. That whoever the writer of the book of Hebrews is writing to, what's he telling? He's telling them to tithe. And Brother John Gage came up to me a couple of 3 weeks ago. He's Brother Phillips. He says, can you show me in the New Testament where it says to tithe? And I said, I don't have time right now, but I'll call you back on the phone, brother. I called him back on the phone, and I showed him this chapter in the book of Hebrews, and he was just blown away by it. Because this is where it tells you in the New Testament. Of course, there's other places. We looked at the other places where it tells Gospels, this is Matthew and in Luke. But this specifies it right here. This draws it out now, people. Now wait till you see what's in this chapter. This is a great chapter of the Bible. Without father, without mother, without genealogy. It's talking about Melchizedek. And he's a type of Christ if he wasn't Christ. Some theologians say this was Christ in the flesh. This is the pre-incarnate Christ. He appeared to Abraham. It's possible. All right, I don't know. Having neither beginning of days nor end of life, but made like the Son of God, he abides a priest perpetually. And in some ways, that really says that could have been Christ. Huh? And who did Abraham tithe to? Jesus. Jesus. That's who he tithed to. He tithed to Jesus. He tithed to Jehovah, the one who shall become. Now observe how great this man was to whom Abraham, the patriarch, gave a tenth of the choicest spoils. And those indeed of the sons of Levi who receive the priest's office have commandment in the law to collect a tenth from the people, that is, from their brethren. Now it doesn't leave preachers out. We have to tithe too. The people support us, but we have to tithe on what we receive. Because when you tithe, it means that you recognize where all of it's coming from. As simple as that. So preachers have to tithe too. Doesn't leave us out. They collect the tenth of the people, that is from their brethren, although they are descended. These are descended from Abraham. But the one whose genealogy is not traced from them. Who's that talking about? Jesus. The one whose genealogy is not traced from them collected a tenth. Who did it do it? Who did it? Who collected this tenth? Melchizedek and also Christ. Collected the tenth from Abraham and blessed the one who had the promises. Who's that one? Abraham. But without any dispute, the lesser is blessed by the greater. And in this case, mortal men receive tithes. Now, what tense is that? Present tense. Mortal men receive present tense tithes. Now, what age is this book written in? In the New Testament age. Yeah. So what's he talking about, Brother Joe? In the church age. In the church age, mortal men receive tithes. But in the case one receives them, of whom it is witnessed that he lives on. Who's this? He's talking about Christ. Who do we tithe to, really? And you give money to your church wherever you go. But who are you tithing to? It's not to the church. You're tithing to Jesus. All right. Tithing to Jesus, where he lives on. And then it says in verse 9, so as to speak, through Abraham, even Levi, who received tithes, paid tithes. Levi, who received tithes, paid tithes. Now look at the next verse. For he was still in the loins of his father when Melchizedek made. What in the world does that mean? Just think about that for a while. Levi hadn't been born again.
He hasn't been born here, isn't he?
Oh, he wasn't born at that time. Abraham. Moses wasn't born. Aaron wasn't born. Any of those people weren't born. This is hundreds of years before that. 400 years before that, actually. And it says that Levi paid tithes. Basically, while he was still in the loins of his father. Hadn't been born yet. What does it teach then?
Well, Abraham was teaching his family that they needed to tithe.
He taught his family that they needed to tithe. And here we go in the age of promise. Now, Levi lived over here in this age. How long were they in Egypt in bondage? 400 years. And here is Abraham over here in this period of time. Over 400 years later, his children would be recipients of what Abraham tells us. Abraham is our father spiritually. Did you know that? Now, your own fathers and mothers, what is the greatest legacy that your mother and father can give you? What is it money?
Church upbringing.
Upbringing in New Testament churches to show us how to give. parents ought to show you how to give. It talks about in here to give sacrificially. It tells us sometimes to give beyond our ability. Your parents can teach. They can, and you know what they're doing? They're putting money in your bank account. That's what they're doing. They're setting aside a bank account for you, an example for you in your life. Look at that in those verses. Look at what you see. Setting aside an inheritance for you. And every generation needs to do that. Every generation needs to show their children how to give. God has an economy. And God's economy, I don't care how you feel, don't ever be directed by feelings and emotions. Be directed by the Word of God. Somebody said, well, I just don't feel I can do this. Well, there you go again. That's the first. You're disobeying the first rule of biblical interpretation, hermeneutics. Don't do what you feel like. Do what the Word says. I don't feel I can do this. I don't think I can do this. Well, do it, because that's what God said.
You know, brother, because the world teaches you take care of yourself first. That's what the world teaches you.
Yes.
See, and that's why I said they forget who God is. They don't put God first, and that's the problem. You know, so a lot of folks, that's what the answer is. That's what I said.
Mm-hmm.
It's them first.
Yep.
God first.
Well,
God will take care of it.
Yeah, right.
the world has taught our children to be a very ungodly race. TV, all the shows on TV is grab and lie and steal and whatever, making a bunch of blue-collar thieves out of people and liars. You know, when I was in management, they wanted me to lie to people. I told them, no, I'm not going to lie to people. I can make this place successful telling the truth. And I proved it. But they still wanted people to lie. The last verse, verse 11. Brother Joe, can you read that for me?
Now, if perfection was through the Levitical priesthood, for the basis of the people received the law, what further need was there for another priest to arise according to the order of Melchizedek, and not to designate according to the order of Aaron? You want to continue on that?
Yeah, just next verse.
Okay. For when the priesthood is changed of necessity, there takes a place of change of law also, for the one concerning.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's as far as we have.
Yeah.
Now, we don't, at this time, we don't have a Levitical priesthood anymore. The law in the Old Testament is done away with. But the principles of the law that we have today, I want to tell you something. The law says, thou shalt not steal. What does the Lord say? Don't steal. The law says, thou shalt not commit adultery. What does the New Testament teach? Don't commit adultery. The Old Testament law says, don't kill somebody. And what in the New Testament, you're supposed to be killing people? No. I mean, we're not living in the crusade times. Even in the crusade times, it was a lot wrong. Did you know that? You know what we've got a problem with the Muslim world today? They're still living in the Dark Ages. They're still living in the Dark Ages. That's the problem. And in the Dark Ages, the Catholic Church would go marching with crosses or into the Middle East and beat all those people up, and then they lick their wounds, and they get their armies together and whip all the way back to Europe again. And they went back and forth, fighting in the name of religion. Fighting in the name of religion. Does God tell you to do that? You're not going to find it in the Word of God. Well, excuse all my coughing today. I guess I've got what a lot of people have had with this coughing business. Let's go on a little further. 1 Corinthians 16, 1 and 2. 1 Corinthians 16, 1 and 2. What does it say there? Who's got that 1 Corinthians 16 chapter? Brother Bill.
Concerning the collection for the saints, as I have given orders to the church of Galatia, so you must do also. On the first day of the week, let each one of you lay something aside, storing up as he may prosper, that there be no collection when I come.
let me turn this paper. I don't want to miss this. You know, we do things according to the Bible, don't we? Do you know that there is no scriptural example in the Bible to take up offerings in every church service? What does the Bible tell us here? On the first day of the week. All right. I mean, that's true. Remember we talked about when we started studying the doctrines of the Bible. We started studying about what doctrine is. What is doctrine? It's teaching. Now, we should study. Don't go out there and don't give when they. I'm not telling you not to give when they pass an offering plate around. But a lot of things are practice, and it doesn't come from the Bible. All right? The Bible teaches us on the first day of the week for the church members of that church, the members of that church to give. And I told you before, when I pastored at one time, we never had an offering plate in the church at all. Because I didn't want an offering plate passed in front of somebody who wasn't even saved or a member of that church. They had no business giving God's Word. Did you know that? How are churches supposed to support God's Word? Church members give. The membership gives. All right? And here it says on the first day of the week to bring your tithes, your offerings, whatever you have set aside in your mind, to give that week and to give it. And that's on the first day of the week. What day of the week is that, by the way? That's Sunday. That's today, isn't it? All right. Are you learning a little something? Now, down through the ages, it's been practiced in many churches. And it didn't come from the good churches either, by the way. It came from the world's churches, and then God's churches started copying the world. Started sending around offering plates every time you had a service, sometimes 2 or 3 times. Now, we send an offering plate around here so they can figure out who's here. You know why you fill out those little envelopes? Do you know why? Because if you're somebody new in this church, every Tuesday night, what do, Brother Art? They go visiting. They take those names and they send somebody to that home so they can tell you, say, we invite you back to church and stuff. That's what they're doing that for. Now, as churches are supposed to do what? They're supposed to survive off of the giving of God's church members and disciples in that church. All right? And it says here on the first day of the week to give. And then number 8. When should offerings be made under New Testament instructions? Again, when should the offerings be made? 16:1 and 2 again. Same one we just read. On the first day of the week. So we have an absolute instruction in the Bible that on that day we should take up an offering. That's the scripture. Take up an offering. How are you take it up? Where you go in the back of the church like we did and throw it in a bucket back there and the treasurer gets a hold of it, or where you send it around an offering plate or whatever you do, that's fine. But it says at least on the first day of the week that we should take up offering. At least on that day. Because that's what the scriptures say. Now, practice. People start practicing things. Sometimes it don't go according to the Bible. And practice becomes what?
Habit.
It becomes habit or tradition. And then the tradition becomes what?
Dogma.
And some things that we do dogmatically are not always according to God's Word. But we need to be aware of those things. We need to be aware. All right? Number 9. Who specifically is instructed to give in the New Testament? 16:1 and 2. Again, we go back to the same verse. Who is supposed to give? The members of God's churches. All right. The members of God's churches. Once you become a member of the body, you're supposed to support the body. I remember here, I'm so proud of you as a class. I cannot tell you how proud of you that I am. I am just, it's a little piece of heaven teaching you people. But 2 or 3 weeks ago, in the second service, it looked like the whole balcony was vacating and going down to the altar. I mean, it's just, well, some of you were part of it. How many of you saw that? I mean, this whole section over here just went down the stairs into the front of the church. And they were all down in front. There were so many of you, they didn't know what to do. They said, Brother Phillips, help us, help us, help us. Get all these people's names. You know when that started? You know how long ago that act started? That was action. That was action that was brought on by conviction of the Word of God. How long ago did it start? When did this all start?
Jesus said, follow
4 years ago? When did your sister pass away? Where?
96.
In 96. God started dealing with these people's hearts, saying that. And then you came to church about 4 years ago or so, and you started listening to me teach. And it just started rippling through the family. God's Word started rippling through the family. Well, they said, how in the world all this happened? I said, well, it's been going on for years, brother. It was the harvest. This was the harvest. Brother Art was going out there home, house to house with you people, leading people to the Lord. You brought your family to church and you heard the Word of God preached. That was the harvest time. That's when the crop was ready. That's when God just moved all of these hearts at one time. Now, many of you are members of this New Testament church. You're covenanted together to carry out the gospel. Now you're part of it. What one time you were strangers of, now you're part of it. The Apostle Paul, when he's talking to the Gentiles, he said, one time you had no God. At one time you had no God. But now you're called to be partakers of the glory and of the covenant and of the ministration of God's glory. We, as people, as disciples in New Testament churches, we have a lot to say of what goes on in our communities. Did you know that? According to God's plan. We are the administrators in this age of God's kingdom. What we do does affect other people's lives. How you live, what you do, does affect other people's lives. You ever heard the old term, no man's an island? Well, I guarantee you, as members of New Testament churches, what you do, what you say, does affect other people's lives, because you are God's representatives in this world. You are children of the King. What? You are children of the King of Glory. You are representatives in this age. All right, number 10. What are some objects for support on the New Testament giving? In 2 Corinthians 8 and 4. This church that is talked about there begged to take part in giving. Begged to take part in giving. Brother Joe, do you have that?
Yes. Begging us.
Begging us. Continuously begging. That's the term.
Begging us with much entreaty for the favor of the participation into the support of the saints.
All right. Now this church begged to participate in the support of the saints. When Israel left Egypt, God had to call a bunch of them lost ones out. You know, the saved ones and the lost ones came out of Egypt too. A bunch of them got swallowed up by the dirt. Then the ground opened up and flames, and they were swallowed up. That was the lost ones. All right? But when they came out, then Moses he asked the people to give. I want you to give something for the building of the tabernacle and all the ministry of God. And those people gave so much that Moses had to tell Aaron, tell the people not to give anymore. We've got too much. Wouldn't that be beautiful today? We wouldn't have to be crammed in this little classroom, would we? We've had as much as 45 people in this classroom. I don't know how many's in here today, but there's a lot of you. It's kind of crowded, isn't it? The air gets real warm and everything else. If we gave so much they didn't know what to do with the money, we wouldn't have to have this problem. We can have great big classrooms. All right, B, 1 Corinthians 16, 1 through 3. Now, we already covered that. What are we supposed to do? Churches are supposed to give for the support of the ministry. for the support of the ministry and other churches and for the needy. People that are really needy. Churches really need to help the needy. That's very important, and it's a scriptural thing to do, too. Like you said, this guy came out, he was a panhandler, asking you for something. Well, if that man really needed help, you could go to your church and say, there's a guy over here that really needs help. And you know what? The church should help them if they really need help. All right. C, Philippians 4:13 through 16. Philippians 4:13 through 16. Someone turn there for me. Philippians 4th chapter, 13 through 16. Have you got that one, Christy?
Philippians 4.
13 through 16.
Okay. I can do all things through him who strengthens me. Nevertheless, you have done well to share with me in my affliction. And you yourselves also know, Philippians, that at the first preaching of the gospel, after I departed from Macedonia, no church shared with me in the matter of giving and receiving but you alone. For even in Thessalonica you sent a gift more than once for my needs.
All right, so what does it tell us there? That churches should support missionaries. What was Paul? He was a missionary. Churches should support missionaries. Missionaries are supported by churches. All right? You know, people have wrangled for years and years over associations and conventions having convention and association-sponsored missionaries. They say it should be direct. Well, we have direct missionaries, don't we? We have missionaries that we directly send out. What's in some of our missionaries? You can go down there and look at them on the wall that we directly send out from churches. Basically, all of them are sent out by churches somewhere. But this missionary was sent out by church, and he was supported by many churches. And it says here that he was supported a lot by the Philippian church. Okay, in 2 Corinthians 11, 8 and 9. 2 Corinthians 8 and 9. 2 Corinthians 11, 8 and verse 9. Have you got that, brother?
Yes. I robbed other churches, taking wages from them to minister to you. And when I was present with you and in need, I was burdened to no one. For what I lacked, the brethren who came from Macedonia supplied. And everything I kept myself from being burdensome to you. And so will I keep myself.
Well, he told this church at Corinth there, you bunch of tightwads. That's what he called them. A bunch of tightwads and Ebenezer Scrooges. He said, you Scrooges and tightwads. He said, I wasn't a burden to you, but he should have been. Because that church, he established that church there, didn't he? He established that church there. And what was the Corinthian area? What kind of an area was it? It was a rich area. The Corinthian pillars and all that. You know, you hear about the Corinthian-style homes today with these big pillars up. That's the kind of area. It was a rich area. But these tightwads didn't want to support God's word, and so other churches, they said that you ever heard of that old term, robbing Peter to pay Paul? That's where it comes from right here. He said, I burdened other churches to minister and support you tightwads. That church was responsible for what they did to Paul. Paul later told him he's sorry because he didn't become a burden to them. Because he said, I should have made you pay my way. Because that's what God teaches. All right. 1 Corinthians 9, 7 through 14. Here is a long reading. First Corinthians 9, 7 through 14. Now, he had a lot of problems in the Corinthian church. He wrote 2 church letters twice. 1st and 2nd Corinthians and 1st and 2nd Thessalonians. Because there were problems in these areas. All right? And let's read this just a little bit, and then we'll go and we'll work on this some more next week. More than that. Have you got that, brother?
I got it. Whoever goes to war at his own expense, who plants a vineyard and does not eat of his own fruit, or who tends a flock and does not drink of the milk of the flock. Do I say these things as a mere man, or does not the law say the same also? For it is written in the law of Moses, you shall not muzzle an ox while he treads out the grain. It is oxen God is concerned about. Or does he say it altogether for our sakes? For our sakes, no doubt, this is written, that he who plows should plow in hope, and he who threshes in hope should be partaker of his hope. If we have sown spiritual things for you, it is a great thing if we reap your material things. If others are partakers of this right over you, are we not even more? Nevertheless, we have not used this right, but endure all things, lest we hinder the gospel of Christ. Do you not know that those who minister the holy things eat of the things of the temple, and those who serve at the altar partake of the offerings of the altar? Even so the Lord has commanded that those who preach the gospel should live from the gospel.
That's God's way. That's the way it should be. Preachers and missionaries ought to depend upon churches, not the world. God, how many times have you gone to church yard sales? Have you ever seen them? Cake sales, bake sales, all this kind of stuff. All the time. But that is not the way we're supposed to raise money. We don't go out and have car washes. We don't go out and play bingo to raise money for churches. We raise money by giving, by tithing, and by giving above the tithe, whatever God's churches need, whatever God's people need. That's the way you support the ministry. And that's what Paul's saying. He's instructing the church how to support the ministry. You're supposed to give. And you're part of the church. And that's what we're doing. Now, they set aside here this lesson. This lesson wasn't the one that we were supposed to be teaching because it's only down the road. But I went back to this one. All right? Thank you for your attention today. God bless you with His Word, and we'll come back and we'll study a little bit more. I hope that we become tithers. I hope that we become givers to God and supporters of God's people. Brother Gray.
Good morning.
Good morning.